Welcome to another episode, Pound for Pound Box Report, episode 201. I am your host, Michael. Joining me this week, Gail from Community Digital News, Jacob from Jab Hook, Daniel from The Inscriber. What's going on, lady and gents?
Hey, we just could not wait to get our boxing talk on this week. So it's going down tonight.
Yeah, because it's my only day to really do the show because I don't want to do the show on Friday. That would be my only available evening to do the show. So yeah, I'm doing it early this week. Doing it early. For those who are new to Pound for Pound Boxing Report, Pound for Pound Boxing Report, live YouTube show, podcast, and blog discussing all things boxing. The motto is when boxing is good, we will talk about it. When it's bad, we will talk about it. Bottom line is, if it concerns the sweet science, we will talk about it. If you want to find all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, blog page is the place to go to, P4P Boxing Report. .wordpress.com. That's the link. If you check the right of the blog page, you'll find links to find our channels and pages on Twitter. And the Twitter handle is at P4P Boxing Report. Also, also the links for the YouTube, G Plus page and channel, as well as Facebook and Tumblr. Also, links. You can check the right of the page to find links to where to listen to the show: SoundCloud, iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks over in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. Let's get the show started this evening. Recapping what went down last week. Showtime and ESPN had competing cards. I want to start with the Showtime card first. The main event for that, Mikey Garcia fighting Sergey Lipinets. Uh, Garcia moving up to 140 pounds. He ended up defeating Lipinets. Very good fight, in my opinion. He won by unanimous decision. Putting Lipinets down, I believe, in round 7 by way of a counter left hook. But Lipinets gave a good account for himself. You know, he stayed in there. He showed himself to be tough. But Mikey Garcia was just too skilled. Too good for him at the end of the day. I always start the show when I have a woman here on the show. I always say ladies first. I always start with a woman. So ladies first. Once again, Gail, start with you in this fight. This fight took place in San Antonio. If you were able to see, I know you was out in StubHub for the ESPN card, but if you were able to see it, your thoughts on Garcia's win?
No, I did stay home, actually. I was not one of the hardcore 2,500 that went and braved the rain. We'll talk more about that later. Although it would have been some serious bragging rights to have. But I saw both fights. That's what picture is made for, ladies and gentlemen. And if you wanted to see a fight between two superb boxing technicians, that's what we had. Absolutely terrific fundamentals on display. You cannot fault either of these guys for any of their fundamentals. Distance, footwork, ring generalship, speed. Unfortunately, one is just slightly better than the other, and that tipped the balance all the way over to Mikey Garcia. You're not going to see a brawl. You're not going to see carnage. You know, you had to turn over to HBO for that. But, you know, this is what you want to show: a prospect, a youngster, somebody developing their game. Just watch these guys at work. Yeah, they both think while they're in the ring. They both got plenty of tools. Neither of them panic. They both have a good chin. And, you know, it's just a shame in a fight like that, actually, that somebody has to lose. I would certainly not mind seeing Lipinets again. I think there are a lot of opponents out there that would be perfect for him. But now that Mikey's got his 4th belt, I hope he stays true to his word in the post-fight interview that he wants to go back down to 135 and unify, and then go to 140 and unify. Now, I'll tell you what, I would be enormously impressed if he can unify in 2 different divisions. To me, that's the real test now for Mikey Garcia. Stop screwing around with, oh, you know, cherry pick a belt here. Oh, go take that fight there. You know, Mikey, if you're as good as you say, let's get down to business.
Sorry, I was on mute. Here's my thing for me, and I'll go to you, Jacob. You can follow up, Daniel. Very good fight. Mikey Garcia showed his technical skill, but in watching the fight and watching the action, Jacob, for me, I'm looking and I'm saying, and I'm questioning whether this guy is really a 140 pounder. Um, sure, he put Lipinets down, but I still question whether he really carried the power that he had at 26, 30, and 35. if the power is really there at 140 pounds. And given some of the other welterweight fights that we saw over the weekend, but one in particular, which we will talk about later, I'm looking at this and I wonder, can Mikey Garcia be as dominant at this weight uh, as he has in the lower weights? I question that. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's talking, about welterweight also. I think in that end
That's a
of fight
mistake.
Yes, he certainly
conversation,
did. Yes,
and
he did.
he's kind of all over the place. I can argue your point that although he's winning these fights, it's not like he's knocking his opponents out like he was in the lower weight classes, or completely destroying him. It was a good fight. Lipinets put up a good effort, but ultimately I think Garcia is just a class above him. But again, the problem I have with Garcia is that he talks about all these other fights, but we're not getting those fights. We're getting these kind of secondary fights, or like the fight against Broner, which I've been done with for a long time. But then you talk about these other opponents, and it's just kind of like, well, why don't you get it on with these other opponents? And I think there's a difference between collecting belts versus actual legacy. So you might go down in the history books as 4 or 5 divisional champ. What belts did you get those people from? Because we all know there's plenty of belts out there. Sometimes the non-deserving have the belt, or they're put in a position where they're able to get a belt. Not really the top people in the division, fighting for the belt. So I wish he was more about legacy and putting on great matchups, because we all know the Linares fight was there. He said he wanted it. From what I heard, they gave him everything that he wanted, and then he still didn't take the fight. So, later about potential Linares future matchup. But he did what he had to do. But again, it's disappointing we're not seeing the matchups, especially since he took I think it was about a 2.5 years off, which could and all the fights that we could have seen.
Your mic is going in a little bit in and out, Jacob. I'm just letting you know you may have to fix some things on your end. I'll go to you, Daniel. Your thoughts on what you saw and the future for Mikey Garcia.
What I saw was a really good technical fight, which actually I think this may be, I think the second or third fight that Lipinets has with Buddy McGurk, and it's already shown some of the body movement, head movement that Berta showed with Arturo Gatti famously. And it showed, because if Mikey, for a good amount of the fight, wasn't able to land a 1-2 as cleanly as he normally does, as fast as he normally does. But in the end, he did figure out the timing. He got the 1-2s and ultimately got nice left hook that ultimately dropped Lipinets. Lipinets got up. Like I said, he fought greatly throughout. And unfortunately, though, wasn't enough for him. Now, obviously, he's very skilled enough to be still a prime player at 140. And considering the talk that Mikey's doing, there's a good chance he could even get his belt back pretty soon, because Mikey's talking about going up to welterweight. I probably would advise against that, because he was showing a little bit of a belly at 140, and Mikey, like I said, Mikey's never been the guy to really be really muscle defined, muscle toned. But it was pretty evident that at 140 he starts to looking a little bit pudgy for the weight class. Now 135, you better hurry up, because the fight that he's supposed to get and the two opponents that he talked about may wind up fighting each other pretty soon. And not to mention that, like we just saw in the news, the IBF has given him until March 22nd to decide if he's going to stay at 140 or back down to 145, because now he does have a mandatory challenger and the guy that facing the undercard, Ivan Varanchik. So, good, like I said, good entertaining fight. Good on Mikey that to actually showed out his charity work, because he did mention he was going to fly to Belize to help build houses. At the same time, it's a pretty evident also that your power is not really carrying the 140. Welterweight's, I think, a little bit too much to chew on at the moment. You may want to just say, okay, my limit's 135.
Here's the thing. I don't know. It's not exactly the same situation, but there's parallels here. If I'm wrong here, please challenge me. But would I be completely off in saying, just like Naoya Inoue, who we talked about last week, just like he has some unfinished business at 115 pounds and should probably stay at that weight? Is it the same situation there? Isn't there a similar situation, excuse me, with Mikey Garcia at 35? And anybody's open to answer that question.
I don't think so. Because the thing with Inoue is him deciding, is he's using the fact that he's still a very, very big young man to say that I'm naturally outgrowing the division. Mikey has shown that he can make 135 if he wants to. But what Mikey's trying to do is making a business decision, most likely.
Well, remember,
he sees the most of. Second?
We also have to remember that what Mikey is in boxing for. Mikey is in boxing because he's so passionate he'd set up a fight on a street corner and go for it, like a lot of these guys. It's strictly a money-making enterprise with Mikey. He's too good not to do it. This is really not his passion in life. Just kind of makes his skill level amazing. If you really aren't driven, it's pretty hard to do this sport. That's how good he is. He just can't deny his skill level and his ability to make money. He can make more money doing this than anything else he wants to do. And he can do this long enough to bank some serious money and then go about, whatever his real career passions are. So he's following the money. It doesn't matter to him, really what division he's in. It's whatever he can make a buck. If more belts make him more attractive, potentially, from a money standpoint, that's why he's going to do it. And that's the only reason he's really going to do it. Because I don't think he looks down the road 10 years, 5 years, and sees himself there. I bet he doesn't look down the road 2 years and sees himself still in the sport.
But is it really the money? Did he make more fighting Lipinets than he would have fighting Linares?
I think Linares tied his hands too much, in his opinion, to be beholden to anybody. I think he is so worried about, getting tied up with a promoter and not overseeing his own destiny. Because originally, absolutely his best deal would have been way back when, a few months ago, we were talking about him fighting Miguel Cotto. But that would have required him to ink a 3-fight deal with Golden Boy, and he said no. And then they offered him Linares as a one-shot deal, but he still would have had to sign an agreement. He didn't want to do that. So, just because the overall money might be less, his share of that overall pie is a whole lot bigger if he isn't handing part of it to a promoter. So, it still makes him more money, even if the purse may be lower, but his take overall may supersede that. And you got a lot of expenses when you're dealing with a promoter as a fighter. So I still see it as a money play. I do think his legacy is important to him. There is a family legacy too. I think he feels some responsibility for that, but it's simply not the same as the guys that you see, no matter how far they go, how hungry they stay. And Terrence Crawford and Vasyl Lomachenko both come to mind as his peers. Bud would fight anybody, anytime, anywhere, and he's shown he will.
Let's move on to the co-feature, if you will, of this Showtime card in San Antonio. Rances Barthelemy fighting Kiryl Relikh. Look, first time they fought last year. I can't remember what month. In my opinion, Relikh beat Barthelemy. I don't know. I don't know. Barthelemy, his strategy was poor in that first fight. His strategy was equally as poor in this second fight as Relikh. He got the decision that he should have had the first time. Beat Barthelemy by unanimous decision. And I'll go to you, Jacob. Is this the case of good Relikh, bad Barthelemy? The fact that Barthelemy may not be the same fighter at 140 pounds that he was at 135 and especially 130, or is it just a combination of everything? Because I'm watching this and Barthelemy, he got beat in every facet of the game Saturday.
I think it's a combination of both, in the sense that Relikh seemed like he wanted to redeem himself. He was throwing a lot of punches, and he was active and had Barthelemy on the ropes. Barthelemy, I felt like he has a good skill set, but he doesn't implement his skill set. That's weird. He's very lackadaisical in there, and I don't think he has a sense of urgency when he was obviously behind in that fight. The first fight I thought was a wide gift that he got. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, that has to do with your corner and your team, and if they're telling you the right things, or maybe they're not the right people that should be guiding your career. I mean, because he did not look good at all, and he was not using the tools that I think that he possesses to his advantage. And especially when you get that far down in a fight, as he was, you got to have a sense of urgency. You have to have a switch of game plans. You have to do something. But he just kept on doing less of nothing, besides some more low blows, which he got docked for, I believe, in one of the rounds. So to me, it's a combination of both.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
I agree in the fact that it's a combination of both. Relikh improved a little bit in his last fight. His pace was better than in the last fight. He let Barthelemy breathe. At the same time, Barthelemy might have thought that because he got the decision, or it was very controversial last time, that he could just do the exact same thing and they'll give him the decision again. Which was a pretty dumb move, considering what transpired in that fight. Like, you just have to see him. Barthelemy mainly just kept the high guard for the most part. Wasn't able to get off of the combinations that he wanted to because Relikh kept outpacing him. And it ultimately resulted in low blows. One blatant, the most blatant one, obviously, in the 12th round with 5 seconds to go. And he got a point deducted for it, too, for an earlier low blow. He could have gotten a point deducted in the 12th round low blow, but I think Luis Pabon decided it was 5 seconds left in the fight. There's really no point. I think Barthelemy. Well, the way Barthelemy changed his style a bit, he did try to be a bit, like Bo said, to be more of a crowd pleaser. It hasn't worked for him, especially if he's at 35 or at 140, because guys are just not going to be naturally bigger than him, naturally stronger than him. He has to outbox these guys if he's going to stay in that weight class. But obviously, like I said, he wasn't able to do it. Relikh got the decision that he deserved the last time. And I don't know about you guys, but I wouldn't mind seeing Relikh versus Lipinets for that title. That'd be two decent fights considering the styles that they fight.
I'm gonna piggyback off what Daniel just said, Gail, and get your comments on the fight. Not just in terms of Relikh and Barthelemy, but where do you see Relikh in his standing in the 140-pound division?
Well, first of all, I'm incredibly glad that that horrible wrong was righted with this bout. Relikh left absolutely no doubt that he was the winner this time. So good for him. On the other hand, I could not figure out what the hell was going on with Barthelemy. Was he, everybody's entitled to a bad night. Everybody. He didn't even seem mentally there. He going through the motions was the phrase that kept going through my mind. Looking at him, he going through the motions. He's just counting down the seconds until the round is over and getting by with as little as he could. That's not to denigrate Relikh by any means. And maybe it was that Relikh was neutralizing him that effectively. If he was, I'm doubly impressed. But I don't think so. Relikh fought a very good fight and a very smart fight, and he certainly took advantage of what was in front of him. But it didn't end up being much of a test. I wish he had some more power. He doesn't. It would push him up that next level if he did. But he's certainly earned the right to engage, anybody in the 140 division. How far will he get? I don't think he's at the top tier, but I'd like to let him make his case for that. He's certainly earned it.
Let's move on to, I was mentioning how Showtime and ESPN were on competing cards at the same time. I want to move on to the ESPN card. StubHub and Carson, specifically the main event of that StubHub card. Oscar Valdez defending his WBO featherweight belt against Scott Quigg. Valdez winning by unanimous decision. Brutal fight, physical fight, punishing fight. Valdez suffered a broken jaw. Quigg, who was over 2 pounds during the weigh-in, it was reported after the fight he had suffered a broken foot in training. His nose and face was busted up. Valdez was hurt, I want to say, in round 5 by overhand right towards the end of the round, but he came back and he fought back hard, was able to find the resolve to outbox Quigg. At the end of the day, I thought the decision was just. But again, punishing fight by both guys. I'll go to you, Daniel. Valdez won. Very good fight. One of the candidates for fights of the year. My problem is this is the 3rd fight in a row where he's been in a really tough fight, when he's been either hurt or put down, right? He's winning. He's drawing fans, but I wonder if these back-to-back tough fights is going to take a toll, an accumulation on his career to the point that he's going to have a short shelf life.
You want to see a recent example of that, you have to look at Francisco Vargas, actually. Just one division up. He had one tough fight after the other. 2 of the 3 were the fights of the years at the time, or could be contenders for fights of the year at the time. And like I said, we still haven't seen the full, at least skill set of Francisco Vargas back from those fights. With Valdez, it's a little bit difficult to gauge because he has the speed to counter it. With Quigg, we understand there's extenuating circumstances. Quigg didn't make weight. Like, he's not blaming it on the broken foot. And obviously he rejected the second day weigh-in. And you can tell he came in pretty big in that fight. The issue that's going to happen probably with Valdez, and it's probably one of the saving graces that he technically has right now, is that most of the rest of the division is busy fighting themselves. We know that Morris and Santa Cruz are going to fight later on this year. We know that Jojo Diaz is primed to actually try to fight Gary Russell Jr. this year. So we know there's not a lot of spots open unless he wants to go after Selby for a challenge in the fight. And he might get a couple of breaks here and there. The thing that probably has to change for Valdez is he has to actually box more. He's getting into this groove that unfortunately a good amount of Mexican fighters get, where they feel like the only way they can win the crowd is if they go all out and just start to brawl and throw punches and combinations all over the place. He just has to box. He's one of the most skilled boxers in that weight class. He just has to box out. He made the Quigg fight a bit harder than what he had to. Not that this is discredit Quigg. Quigg came in and started to come on him in later rounds. But he has to let more of his lateral movement, more of his skill set dictate the fights rather than trying to give the crowd blood and guts, because eventually, yeah, that's gonna wear you out. Like, we don't know how long he's gonna be out now because he has a broken jaw. And ultimately, he just has to use his skill set to prolong his career, because otherwise, yeah, you may have something like a Julio, like Baby Bull Diaz. Baby Bull Diaz, remember, had a lot of skill, but it got to the point, particularly in the fights with Marquez, where he wanted to brawl. And he hasn't really gotten to that level ever since. Granted, he took breaks, like tried to start his own company and such, but he hasn't been like the same level since he fought those Marquez fights. Valdez may be heading for something the same unless he decides, let me just use my full plate, let me just try to outbox opponent, let me just let my skill set guide it in, and just instead of just being pure blood and guts at this point.
The same question I asked of Daniel. I posed to Daniel. Excuse me. I'm going to ask of you, both Gail and Jacob. Talk about the fight, yes, but could we see a short shelf life for Oscar Valdez because of the succession of really, really tough, punishing, grueling affairs?
There is no doubt that fight after fight like this shortens a guy's career. It does. If if this is their style and they want to go for it, there is a fan base for it. No question about it. And the last couple of fights, Oscar's had really grind out some wins. They were solid enough. Mariaga made it very close. Cervania gave him some trouble, although he clearly won. This one, he needed to prove his entertainment value in some ways. Or he certainly did. No question about that. In fact, this fight on ESPN was just reported a little earlier this evening. Not only beat Showtime in the ratings, but it just about eclipsed the Wilder-Ortiz ratings. It had a great lead-in. It had a basketball lead-in that was quite good. but still, that's an amazing accomplishment. And it just shows you I should never, even if I've got to sit in the rain for 3 hours and drive in it, I should never turn down a StubHub fight. I got to learn my lesson. I haven't missed a fight there in 4 or 5 years, and I passed this one up. And there was about 2,500 people there, all sitting with they were handing out ponchos for people sitting out there, and they got their dollars worth, and the undercard was superb. So Valdez won a lot of new fans over and won over a lot of fans who've been waiting to see him rise to the occasion, to get to that next top step with a little better demonstration of power, a little more action. But Lord, you cannot discount this guy's heart. He did not only bust his jaw in the 5th round, he lost several teeth. I don't know how many. I kept saying on Twitter, somebody better count the number of teeth. I think we're missing a few there. And it was to the point where he was not taking the mouthpiece out between rounds. And I think that was to hold everything together. Eventually there's going to be enough blood passing through. It's going to finally coagulate, get sticky enough to essentially glue everything down enough to get through the fight. I mean, as gory as that sounds, that's what he did. By the way, he also either severely bruised or broke a knuckle on his left hand as well. Because there's a photo of him in the hospital holding up his hand, and it's the outer edge of his left hand across the knuckle doesn't look too good either. But who's not going to want to see him whenever he's back in the ring? And it easily could be a year, if not 10 months, 8 months. It's not going to be 6 months, I don't think, and it's not going to be 3 with the jaw, depending on what the jaw injury was really like. I think a lot of that was more internal. Your jaw isn't going to be in great shape if you have a lot of teeth busted out. And it made me think, it's kind of amazing we don't see it more often. I can only think of a handful of occasions recently where guys have lost teeth. I mean, James DeGale comes to mind as really the last one that's memorable. But good for him. He went forward with the fight. Fighting a much bigger guy, it's a lot harder to do damage. Valdez hit Quigg with some body shots that, had they been fighting at an even weight, I think would have taken him down. But he put on a hell of a show. You can't fault him for doing that. If he wants to make his money and go out in a blaze of glory, it's his call, and he could certainly do it.
Problem is he's going to be out for a minute. Let alone the fact that he's going to be pissing blood for the next 3-4 days because of all the blood he swallowed during the fight.
Yeah,
he has to get that jaw wired shut, his teeth, his hands.
Yeah, he's not going to have any problem making weight for a while because he's not going to be eating anything.
Right. Sucking food through a straw. He won. But he got beat up while winning. And yeah, I would be surprised if he returns to the ring this year. To be honest, I would be really surprised if he returns to the ring this year. So for me, I'm looking at this. He probably won't be back in the ring till sometime in 2019 because the damage to his face, to his body, internal, that's going to take some months, a lot of months for him to recover. Let's move on. And with that being said, hell of a fight. Got to give him credit. He showed all the heart in the world. But yeah, these back-to-back tough fights is going to catch up to him eventually. Let's move on to
one quick second, if I may. If I could comment on that fight.
Go ahead.
I do disagree with that Valdez didn't use his boxing skill. Jab, and he was really trying to do that, but Quigg, he missed weight, pretty badly, and he was obviously the bigger guy, and I just don't think that Valdez's punches were having the effect that they would have had if he wasn't so big. And so, unfortunately, as Scott Quigg was mid to later in the fight, who had basically the jaw thing to worry about, have to kind of alter it. So I give him a lot of credit though for taking the fight, because he could have gotten knocked out, and the belt would have went vacant, and it would have been, there would have been a little asterisk there because of the weight thing. But he took the fight. He fought a much bigger guy, and he was kind of forced to dig deep, which he did, and he showed a lot of grit to me. But I agree with the rest of the panel. I think his shelf life is unfortunately going to be very short.
Indeed. Let's move on to another fight on Showtime that took place during the time when we were off. Showbox, and I'll go to you on this one, Daniel. When earlier when we were talking to Mikey Garcia and his win, over Lipinets to win the IBF belt at 140 pounds, I question whether he will be as dominant at 140 as he was at 26 and 30, and his short life at 135. Well, not even dominant at 135. He's been dominant in the ring, but he hasn't been dominating the division at 135. Let me make that clarification. Part of the reason I'm questioning how well Garcia will fare at 140 pounds is because of what we saw in the main event on Showbox, which took place in South Dakota of all places. That main event was Regis Prograis versus Julius Indongo for an interim belt, I believe, BC at 140 pounds. And look, if Valdez Quigg was the fight of the weekend, Prograis and the way and how he decimated Indongo, stopped him in 2 rounds, sliced through him like a hot knife through butter. Prograis may have been the most impressive fighter of the weekend, or if you want to count Friday, a 3-day weekend. He took apart Indongo. I thought he could outbox him, but I didn't expect that.
It was fun. It was fun to see a little bit, because this is what Prograis wanted. He wanted somebody that had former championship medal, and then Indongo, say what you will about the way he won those 2 belts and how he looked against Crawford. He was still a former 2-belt champion. But Prograis came in there and he was able to effectively dive into the plan of Indongo, which was Indongo was going to try to make it awkward. He's going to try to use the distance to try to make sure he can punch from the distance, and Prograis wasn't having it. After about half of the round 1, he decided, I'm going to put you down, and he did. And it was vicious the way he put him down, too. Now, it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen now at 140, because that is an interim belt. That Prograis now is the mandatory for the winner of the fight that's coming up between Amir, Imam, and Jose Ramirez. That's the BBC.
Oh, sorry.
WBC. We know WBO right now is going to be decided between Hooker and Flanagan. Relikh now has the WBA, and Mikey has to make a decision. Like I said, on March 22nd, because on that card, Ivan Varanchik won the chance to be his mandatory earlier in that card. But in the post-Bud era of 140, Prograis put a stamp on it, saying like, okay, I'm probably the hardest punch, one of the harder punches in the division, and I'm probably one of the better skilled in the division. Whether Mikey decides to fully dedicate himself to 140, that can change things. Whether Flanagan, Hooker, or Relikh find a way to go into the belts, and we still had to forget that even though he lost, Lipinets is still a player. So it was a great showing, really, really great showing by Prograis. He wanted that challenge. Every time you've challenged him, he's proven to be ready for it. And a world title shot awaits him next. It just depends against who.
And I see Low Places joined us. And what I also like is the post-fight interview. I like the fact that he basically called out any and every quasi big name known fighter at 140 pounds. He said, Postal, this is why you didn't want to fight me. He mentioned Garcia. He mentioned the fight next week between Ramirez and Imam. He mentioned Relikh in that fight with Barthelemy. That's what you're supposed to do when you're a fighter on the come up. You go in there, you win impressively, and then when you get the opportunity with the mic in your hand, you let the folks know I'm here and I'm coming for you.
Yeah, Relikh is the right fight to make right now. Don't wait on Garcia, and it gives you more notoriety. Relikh just got a win that I felt he would get, and he dominated the fight. I didn't rate Postal highly. I like Prograis. I like his attitude. I like the fact that he can punch. He claims he has defense and that he's not flat-footed, that nobody just has made him fight differently. Well, according to Barthelemy, Relikh will make you fight differently because Barthelemy said he hit like a truck. And that's why you see Barthelemy in there covered all up and really having no game plan except for not get beat down, yet still getting beat down. So Showtime just showed both of these dudes. I see no reason to not have Relikh and this man unify the titles at 140. I absolutely no reason. It's not gonna get some big fan following if you wait another fight or 2 years and no need. Unify that title. They both look like they'll take tough fights. Relikh has went to the UK, came over here to the States to fight Barthelemy, who's basically American now. He fought Burns in his hometown. I see no reason. Prograis, would he be the favorite in that fight? I'm not sure. That fight tells me more about both men because, frankly, Relikh, he was fighting somebody who didn't want none, and I figured he wouldn't during the fight. So neither one fought a guy that wanted none. So put them against each other, and we learn more. In 140, or the winner that more credible at the end of the day.
I don't know. I still question Barthelemy because again,
no, he whack. No, he's whack. You don't have to go. He's whack. He's
wait a
scary.
minute, but you were fanning for him
No,
not too
no, no,
long
no,
ago
no.
now.
I don't see. That's the thing about me. I'm telling the truth about fighters. I like you when you're doing the right thing and you're in the group. I'm gonna tell you, you look good. You look damn good. This man has started this ever since the Shafikov fight, just standing flat-footed, squaring up to opponents, and then late in the Shafikov fight, what did he start doing? Start going back to boxing. I'm like, yo, you could have did this all along. Then you got in there with Relikh, you thought you was gonna do it again, and you learned that 140 ain't finna play games with you. I'm not nobody's cheerleader. I am a truth teller, and Relikh whooped that ass. And I told EJ, I told Daniel, I told the whole panel before the fight that Daniel came back to work that Rances Barthelemy is about to get his little ass whooped in there, and he did. Hey, he's fighting square up now. He's just in there like a double end bag with a high guard on, just bouncing all around the ring with useless movement that's doing nothing except getting you hit. I'm not finna, nah, no, not me. I'm gonna tell you the truth. Better go back to the drawing board or get away from the damn board. Either one, you're gonna get hurt.
All right, we're gonna leave it at that. Go to you, Jacob, and then Gail. Your thought on Progress in his win over his early stoppage win over Indongo.
I mean, obviously it's a good win. Indongo was on quite a little streak before he ran into the body shot of Bud, but I thought he looked very kind of wild. Indongo, he seemed like he was, I don't know, he wasn't poised. I don't know if he was a little nervous or what, but he didn't seem very stable. He was just he was winging some big punches, and he's not really known for being a knockout artist. So again, this is one of those things that I wish these fighters would use the attributes that they have to establish their game within the fight. But eventually he got caught a couple times. He got hit and went into the ropes. It probably should have been called the knockdown because the ropes basically kept him up. But once he got chin checked, in that second round, I think that the first knockdown, I mean, he was on shaky legs, and he just kept on getting hit in the chin, and three knockdowns, and he was out.
Your thoughts, Gail?
Really a good performance by Prograis. I mean, you do have to look at the opposition. It's easy to denigrate Indongo, but he's had some great fights the last couple of years, and we expected big things of him until he got into the ring with Crawford, which I do think says more about Crawford than Indongo. That all being said, he really had a deer in the headlights night. It was painful to see. He's a likable guy. He works hard. He's certainly earned his shot. But Prograis just took him apart. And I wouldn't mind seeing him unify. And, Loplay said, well, it might be a purist fight. It might not get a lot of audience. I'm going to disagree with you for this reason. Prograis is marketable. The guy is interesting. He's a great interview. If I'm sitting there looking at him from a promoter's point of view and a broadcaster's point of view, that kid is gold. He's fantastic. He walked out in his Rougarou mask. He was sassy. He's got a lot of interesting things to say. He's thoughtful. He'll talk shit if it calls for talking some shit.
He a cocky little son, guy.
He is. And who doesn't love it when a guy can back it up? When a guy can back that up, people are going to flock to him. He's a very attractive personality. And I say, let him off the leash. Let him rip. Let's do some features. I mean, if you watch Steve Farhood interviewing him, he could barely contain himself from laughing, and he was having such a good time with Prograis. That's the kind of guys a network and a promoter live to find, a true personality outside the ring who can back it up inside the ring. I say, ride that Rougarou as far as you can ride it, and let's see what he's got. Let's let him unify. Let's put him up there. Who among the panel doesn't want to see him again?
I can see that point. Yeah, he do got personality. I just think like the boxing just going towards the heavyweight, and you guys better make big fights or you're gonna be forgotten about. And my bad when I said he needs to unify. He's actually not the champion. He needs to win.
Yeah, that's why I wonder what he has to fight the winner of
but we could
fight next weekend to be considered a champ.
But we could see Showtime and the promoters say, hey, it's tougher to make because the parties involved. Relikh and you fight for a title. I wouldn't be, I wouldn't be surprised if that happened where, we had that promotional line issue if the top ranked fighter wins. But that's a good fight next weekend, though.
Yeah. Well, I just say get him back in the ring, get him in front of people, get some feature story promotion behind him, get him to do some interviews, put him on a Mardi Gras crew float, for God's sakes. He is fun. And a guy who is that lively is sellable. I don't care what weight division you're in. He's sellable. They can't all be heavyweights. And there's a whole lot of fans who, like talent where they see it no matter what the weight class is. So I say, get behind him and let's see how far he can go.
And he said he's going to be at the Ramirez Imam fight. I like that. Going to call out the winner. I like that. I wouldn't be mad if he would bum rush the ring and get in the face of the winner.
There you go.
He seems like he has the personality to do something like that. So yeah, following that, it's all to the good for him, and the way he performed, the way he ran his mouth and talked, folks will want to see him again, whether they like him or hate him. So yeah, from a boxing perspective, in the ring, marketability perspective outside the ring, he won, no doubt about it. Let's move on to some news here. The saga of Manny Pacquiao, and I'm just going to have anybody who wants to come in, jump in, please do a free for all, if you will. Last week, he announces a fight against Matisse. Arum says, nope, not yet. Manny apparently is going in training for that fight without Freddie Roach. He's going to have Boo Boy in the corner. Pacquiao and his promotions reaching out to Golden Boy. I named this episode Dissension. This is why. Anybody who wants to jump in on any of this, please do, because yeah, this is borderline. This is a mess.
I just say this: Pacquiao plan on fighting longer than the Night King, man. I'll pass.
Somebody's been watching Game of Thrones, man, on his off days.
Has he caught up? Yeah, has he caught up to Arya though?
No,
has he caught up to Arya?
You know, unfortunately, you know, it is just plain flat out anarchy in the ranks. You know, Pacquiao wants another fight, and he's still thinking he's the Pacquiao of even 3, 4, 5 years ago. And I'm here to tell you he's not. He's got a jillion distractions. He lost his last fight that he really should have won. I mean, we'll see how Jeff Horn performs. That'll tell us a lot. You know, he thinks he's got negotiating leverage like he used to. Manny, I'm here to tell you, you know, no matter how you get treated in the Philippines, which is like a king, like a huge celebrity, you don't have any leverage. You should have hung it up, you know. Unfortunately, before the Horn fight, you didn't. He made a huge mistake taking that fight. Bob Arum, I think, has a tough time saying no to him. He got burned by that fight, and now he's trying to undo that mistake by saying no to him now, which is a very messed up approach. He can't rectify the mistake he made 6 months ago. Now he has to move forward. And we really all just need to move forward and say, Manny, you know, take a victory lap kind of fight somewhere where your fans can see you in the Philippines, and, you know, take a bow. And we'll all remember the great fights and the fun and try to forget some of the fairly unfortunate, ignorant things you've said as a politician, and go off and start your run for president, because that's what he needs to do. He needs to focus on that future. You know, he's having some pretty spectacular careers in multiple fields, and, you know, it really should be enough. He should move from one to the other. As much as I've always liked Manny as a boxer, I'm just not interested in seeing him. I'm just not. I can't believe I'm even hearing myself say that. But I'm not interested against anybody, frankly.
And wait, Jacob and Daniel, there's more. This fight's proposed, I believe, for May in Malaysia. One, Bob Arum said, "Oh, you can try to you can go ahead with the fight, but I'm not going to pay for it." A, B, don't know if they have the financial backing in Malaysia in order to make that fight happen. So again, fellas, this is a mess.
It's been a mess. The bad thing about it is Manny does spend as a pilot. Well, he has to. He's a government official now. He's spending more of the time in the Philippines, and unfortunately, he's pretty much going full circle and becoming the MC Hammer of boxing. I've called him that for a while now because his financial windfall is beneficial to so many people in the Philippines.
And I haven't even mentioned the fact that he's supposedly in debt, and the fact that he didn't want to fight. One of the reasons he didn't want to fight in the United States because of tax issues.
Well, that was always the whole thing when it came to Manny. Like he spends so much money, and it's not on himself. He has to give it to somebody else. Remember, I forgot which 24/7 it was. But they mentioned that he had to hire somebody to say no for him. Because if beggars on the street asking for money, he can't say no. That's much how much of a financial situation Manny puts himself in. And ultimately now Aaron's put in the situation where you said, yeah, okay, you can fight. I'm not going to pay you for it. I was going to pay you for Alvarado, but I'm not going to pay you now. And ultimately, we have to see if this Malaysia situation actually backs up. Because if it turns out, if it's like, we all remember like the whole situation with Floyd in Abu Dhabi or Dubai, where some sheik supposedly keeps offering $100 million to Floyd to fight. And we know how Floyd is about money. If the money's not really there, there's not really much Manny can do because, like Gail said, he does not have any leverage anymore when it comes to the aspect of he doesn't have a title. Most of the players in the division are on the other fence with Heyman. And the only person that's left for you to fight, if you're going to be a welterweight, is the one guy that Freddie Roach, even if you're not with him, does not want you to face, and that's Bud. What are you going to do? Like, okay, the Matisse fight's interesting, but we know Oscar likes to troll Aaron from time to time, but it has to be a situation where he has to understand that he is not the Manny that didn't fight, that he's not the pre-Floyd Manny anymore. No matter it's not in the matter of skill, it's not in the manner of technique, it's just the fact that time has caught up with him. The division has caught up to him. And he can try to go down. You mentioned lightweight. Robert Easter's waiting. Robert Easter could wait for him. Mikey's still out there for him. If he goes down, Lomachenko can go out there for him. So there's not a lot Manny can do, unfortunately. Because if Manny tries to push the buttons on it, he may just wind up burning a bridge that he may need, because yes, you can try to go, and yes, you can try to be the president of the Philippines, but we know where you made most of your money. You made it here. If you'd have done the world tour, you should have done it sooner. But in the end, you didn't able to do it.
Your reaction to all of this, Jacob?
It's the same thing I always say. Is these guys never get let go. I mean, it's a rare, very rare, like a unicorn rare, that a boxer leaves the game when he should. And especially someone like Manny Pacquiao, who's risen basically from poverty to nothing to become what he is. And, he's been fighting for most of his life. He has the politician, thing going on, but, maybe that doesn't fulfill him, in the way that boxing does. So when it's part of your fiber, it's a hard thing to walk away from. Even, do it anymore, it'd be a hard thing to do. So again, there's been lots of talks about the financial, because of, all the money he gives out and things that he does for the country. So, there's that part of it, but again, I don't want to see him fight anymore. I'm with Gail on that. I don't think it's a bad thing to say. I think, it's more of a respect and love thing for the guy. You don't want to see him, a once great boxer, go down and, get beat by, or, even get knocked out by a lower level opposition, and just go past that point. So, I don't know. Nobody's going to know, I think, for a little while here whether, you know, he will eventually hang them up, or if any of this rumors are true. He still has a name, so I mean, he can still, you know, do decent and you know, sell some tickets somewhere. You know, there's still some people that have interest in seeing him. So unfortunately, that could maybe be a negative thing, because he probably knows that. But you know, Top Rank is in a very different position than they were, you know, years ago, in the sense that Manny is the past and they're looking towards the present and future, right? So, you know, they're trying to develop the new talent, and short of them, I guess, matching him up with Bud, which would be, you know, potentially disastrous. You know, I don't know what else they can do.
This is sad. This is sad. Um, as you said, Jacob, fighters not um, looking inward and knowing when to say when. Unfortunately, you see this a lot with prominent fighters, with boxers who have reached a level of serious stardom, where as bright as their career were at the apex, it becomes dark, very dark, and chaotic in the end. And another example, we're seeing that now with Manny Pacquiao in this chaotic situation surrounding his next fight, and who's in his corner, who's not in his corner, who's going to be promoting it, and financial issues. You know, rinse, wash, repeat. Rinse, wash, repeat. We see it once again, unfortunately. Um, Move on to some more news here. We mentioned there was a mention of Lomachenko. There was a mention of Linares as well. Um, I got the story from Three Kings Boxing, that essentially the fight is a done deal for May the 12th on ESPN. Others boxing outlets began reporting that, but De La Hoya sent out a tweet basically saying that Arum has not contacted him until and his team until that happens. There is no fights. I'm going to open it up again for anybody in the hangout. Do you have any more news? Do you have any more details regarding a possibility of a Jorge Linares Vasyl Lomachenko bout in May? What are you hearing from your media cohorts, Gil?
You know, about the same thing you are, that's a done deal. It's interesting. Over the weekend, Gareth Davies, who writes for The Guardian, very, very well regarded British boxing writer. He, just at the time all the Lomachenko, Linares information was floating around, Davies was at StubHub out in the ring with everybody else, and good for him. That's a tough British guy for you. He was confirming a Luke Campbell fight with Lomachenko. Now, that came completely out of the blue to me, that he had run into Eddie Hearn and at StubHub, and Hearn had told him this. I've seen nothing more about that. But Davies is not one of those guys that tends to throw out random bits of information like that without a darn good reason.
There was a story that dropped on
journalist with sources.
There was a story, excuse me, Gail, that I saw something on Boxing Scene regarding a fight with Luke Campbell maybe a day or two ago, but I hadn't seen anything since.
Yeah, and I'm sure it was based on that firsthand conversation that Davies reportedly had with Hearn. Well, maybe there are multiple negotiations going on. I can't see that as the May 12th fight, really, but it throws just the tiniest bit of doubt. And, you know, at this point in boxing, until these things are sealed, delivered, and announced, I remain a skeptic, no matter who it comes from or who's told me. Although makes sense, and it's a good fight. And it would certainly be exactly the right fight to be the week following the Canelo Triple G pay-per-view, especially if for any reason there's a problem with that fight, there's a lack of audience, and that they really need a rebound on the 12th, this would be the smart thing to put there.
I'm going to open up to everybody else here in the panel. Reaction to a possible fight between Linares and Loma. Talk of a possible Luke Campbell fight if that fight hadn't made. I also heard of Lomachenko, they don't get a deal finalized with Linares, that they're going to fall back and fight Beltran.
You gonna go, Scorsese?
Oh, go ahead.
Just to hit on the point that Gail make, I'm also a skeptic until the first opening bell rings and they're both in the ring, because we all seen these talks break down. I'm excited for a Linares Lomo fight. If I can't get Linares Garcia, I'm not. I mean, Campbell did make a good account of himself against Linares, but I'm not so keen on the Lomachenko Campbell fight. I'd much rather see him, Lomachenko fight Linares. But I'm gonna trust Gail on this. If this gentleman, doesn't normally, say things that are out of pocket, or that are not true, or doesn't report these things, and it's definitely possible. I mean, lots of fights fall through for various reasons. But the other thing too with Linares, he's co-promoted, right? He's not just all Golden Boy.
Yeah.
Like I said, they could just talk to Mr. Honda, but
yeah. So I don't know. Maybe there's an angle there that they can use and not be, I guess, have to rely on Golden Boy to piggyback off their, potential, pay-per-view fight. And I say potential because of, the recent situation that's happening right now with Canelo.
Well, and let's remember, and you just reminded me of something, HBO has done everything they can to play nice with Taiken Promotions and Mr. Honda. That's the gateway to all of these Asian fighters, and your Venezuelan, Japanese fighter, Linares. So they like working with them a lot. They make it easy, not a lot of drama. So they're going to want to play nice with them. That's another asset that counts not only for this fight, but their relationships going forward. I mean, for example, if they're already in talks for Superfly 3, which I have no doubt is going on, that's another factor, And the truth is, even in boxing, where the relationships can change overnight and be really difficult and lots of drama. You think high school girls have drama? Try boxing promotion. But at the end of the day, we all want to do business with people that we like, that it makes it easy for us. And Taiken, has a wonderful reputation for being absolutely terrific to work with. So that certainly can factor in.
Daniel, you want to say something?
Yeah, I say this. All I know is if Linares doesn't get the fight, or this fight doesn't happen. Let's just say Lomachenko doesn't happen. I just think it's gonna look worse on Lomachenko. There's a sense that people really, they don't rate Linares. They know who he is. They know what they get from him. Max Kellerman said it well. He's not world class, but he'll show up with a belt. You know what I mean? And it's a good win for you. And people are not gonna say, why is Linares not fighting the number one guy? He hasn't been. He hasn't been getting any flack for it. People gonna want to know, why isn't Lomachenko top ranked? Why they can't close the deal the right way? And it's fair, but I wouldn't mind the Campbell fight, because Campbell gave Linares every bit of hell he could handle and probably beat him. And his dad died like a week or two before the fight. So
we'll disagree on that. But proceed.
Yeah, it just gave him every bit of hell, and his dad died 2 weeks before the fight. I mean, in a fair world, maybe he deserves the Loma shot. Maybe I don't know. The division ain't great. It is what it is. We got questions about every one of the champions there, maybe except Mikey Garcia. Um, but you gotta fight some damn body. So I mean, that's quick for me. Whatever happens, happens. I'm cool with it. There.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
I'm I'm a bit skeptical of the situation. Like I said, everybody's hoping this fight gets done. Like both fighters pretty much ordered the promoters to get it done, but you never really know because at the end of the day, either Oscar can throw a wrench, Arum can throw a wrench. Things can always happen to derail a fight, like Jacob said. And ultimately, we just have to see how this shapes up because at the end of the day, the person that could be left out of the window is Mikey. Like I said, he could have taken that Linares fight. And instead, he's watching the two people that he named when he fought Broner fight each other. So I hope it does happen. The logistics have to work. But apparently, like I said, according to the report, it's supposed to be on HBO. And as part of the ESPN, supposed to hype the hell out of the replay for Canelo Golovkin. First, we have to see how that situation starts with the whole Canelo Golovkin situation. We have to see how that ultimately ends up. That's what I mean. It's ESPN. I don't think ESPN wants to hype up another network, and especially on the Saturday night, especially when they themselves are now in the boxing business and they're in the business to make money. They're not in the business to make other networks money. HBO either. HBO's not in the business of making ESPN money. So I have to see how this actually shapes up. It would not surprise me because I do believe either HBO or ESPN has a right of first refusal with one of these guys. So this could all just blow up in a minute. Like the fight could be 95% done, but that extra 5% could blow up the whole thing.
It's to be determined. I would like the fight to happen. I think Linares is a little bit better than Max Kellerman gave him credit for being. Um, I want to see Loma tested. If Garcia doesn't come back down to 35 and fight him, I wouldn't mind seeing Loma fight him. But again, this is Bob Arum we're talking about, and Bob Arum does tend to sell a lot of wolf tickets. I don't say a lot, but he will sell wolf tickets from time to time. Tease. So we could, at the end of the day, see a Lomachenko, Ray Beltran fight. All the talk about Linares and Lomachenko, we could very well indeed see a fight between Loma and Beltran. Not that, and that for me would be disappointing because we know what's going to happen. If Loma fights Beltran, he's going to win and win rather easily. Uh, so yeah, I hope it happens, but we will see. One last story here. Um, in reaction to Wilder's fight with Ortiz and what Wilder has been saying about, and Finkel and DeBella have been saying about Barry Hearn in terms of a possible fight between Wilder and Joshua. Uh, Wilder, excuse me, not Wilder, but Eddie Hearn um, told ESPN essentially he wants the fight to happen next, a Joshua Wilder fight to happen next. Uh, Forget the possible August bout against Big Baby. Of course, this is all contingent on him beating Joseph Parker at the end of the month. But he is basically he basically told ESPN that he wants to make a fight between Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder next, uh, hopefully this summer. Going to put the question out there: do you believe him, or is he just being reactionary and just being a reactionary, given what we just saw with Wilder and Ortiz and the subsequent talk that
I,
Wilder has been dealing out to Eddie Hearn specifically.
I believe him. I mean, the guy 18 fight. What was he? 17 fight, 18 fights in the ring with Vladimir Klitschko. You know, that says believe him. You know, 3 titles, less than what 21. What is it? 20-0 right now. He gonna have 3 titles if he win the next fight. I believe him.
That's you
They
no
have
offense, but
they,
you're talking about Joshua in his record. The
yeah
question is about Hearn.
yeah, but like I said, when Joshua demands something he won't, Eddie said Joshua want this. Said I can't keep this from AJ. That's what he's saying. I can't keep it from him. So it's basically like AJ not Pacquiao. AJ's AJ said if I want it, give it to me. Now I wouldn't be mad if they gave me one more fight. I wouldn't be mad because it gives you the potential to let the U.S. fan see Joshua. You put Wilder on sometime. You know, hell, if you really want it, which we never do over here, you can go to a big ass football stadium, put Wilder on the damn undercard, put Joshua on the main event, and then have them face to face after the fight. Boom, big fight. Boom. But if I get it, if Joshua wanted to fight next, I can see Eddie Hearn saying do it. I think he already faced a more dangerous opponent. Just a harder opponent to hit, opponent that can hit you with more things. I think he's a real favorite in the fight, Joshua. Wilder showed a lot of flaws. Maybe that's why he's more confident. He saw a lot of flaws. I think a lot of people did. A lot of people try to compensate for the flaws by saying, "But look at this, look at that." Hey, still remains that there were flaws and there was a fighter that couldn't finish up. They likely couldn't believe in themselves more that they're not 40 and they're just as big. I would. I mean, it's common sense. But like I said, if another fight is in between, it could be some nice money. Boxing is ran on that. It could be popularity for the people. I mean, it could be a popularity move for the people in the U.S. to say, who is this fucking Greek god-looking motherfucker holding these belts? Where he come from? I need to follow this. I could see that. But I could definitely see this fight happening next as well. I have no reason to feel the Bob Arum way about Eddie Hearn and Anthony Joshua just yet. I have no reason to yet.
Well, okay, whoa. I gotta stop you there. You don't have the feeling that Bob Arum, when Eddie Hearn specifically signed Luis Ortiz to keep him as far away from Anthony Joshua as possible.
Luis Ortiz.
When he could easily, yeah, Luis Ortiz. Yeah, the same guy you said he was a Cuban world champion. So that's number one. Number two.
He's not making the money though. I see what you're trying to. He's not making the money. This is a huge fight.
It doesn't matter about the money. It doesn't matter about the money. It's the matter of the fact that it's the matter of the fact that you signed a guy that you're afraid your fighter to face. Oh, and then guess what? If you want to throw a big baby Miller, then they're gonna say, "Oh, wait a minute, we got to fire. Then we're gonna fight our mandatory in Povetkin." The bad thing about it with Hearn is he's shown as a promoter that as much as Joshua may want to fight, Eddie Hearn doesn't want to fight. Eddie Hearn wants to put the obstacles in this whole situation. Or it could be even Barry Hearn who really wants to protect the cash cow. We don't really know because at the end of the day, they don't really let all the secrets out until it becomes close to a fight game. And Wilder just mainly has to stand his ground. He's going to have to in a couple of weeks because, like I said, you talked about bum rushing in the middle of a football stadium. We have to want to go bum rushing in the middle of a soccer stadium in a couple of weeks. Maybe. Or even the worst case scenario. The Parker fight turns out to be a lot harder than he thought. And maybe they do want to take another little interim fight here and there.
I think if that fight is tough, you're going to get that fight again.
We have to see. But all the roads are leading to those two. Like, the only thing that could derail it now is Parker winning the fight. And if Parker wins the... I'm sorry, but I would say, and if Parker wins the fight, that's a lot easier negotiations. A lot easier negotiations because Bob Arum is gonna try to get into that money. and promote the hell out of Joseph Parker now.
It should happen. I believe it will happen. And I'll go to you, Gail and Jacob. The question is when. So I'll ask again. Do you believe Eddie Hearn when he says he wants to make the fight happen next?
No. Hell no. He does not want to make the fight next. He wants to make the fight at the peak of the potential money. And that's not next. He can get one more tune-up fight for Joshua before it happens. And then we get some massive fight. And the one thing you can take to the bank, I'll leave a little shredded out about whether it will happen next, but it will never happen outside the UK. It will not happen in the United States.
That's right.
Ever, ever, ever. There is no other place on the planet that can put 90,000 people in the seats and make that kind of money than in the heart of London. There's no way it's going to be anywhere else. And there is no way in hell it's going to be 50-50 on the money. Now, that may delay things, but the ability to carry that fight means placement in England, and that requires Anthony Joshua. It does not require Deontay Wilder. It doesn't. Hearn can make plenty of money, not as much, with Joshua and in almost anybody else. He could put 60,000, 70,000 people. I bet he could put 90,000 people in the seats with Big Baby. And Big Baby would not be as difficult to negotiate with. I'm sure Big Baby would be happy with $1 million, $2 million payday, which apparently is now peanuts to Wilder. He needs to watch himself a little bit about making these demands for $8 million paydays. If they can still make that kind of money with somebody else, Wilder could negotiate himself right out of the immediate picture. And that's one of the reasons I'm not entirely sure this fight's going to take place next.
I can understand Wilder asking for it because you get what you can fight for. You can get what you negotiate. You negotiate up. But to your point, I just don't think he's going to get a 50-50 split. He's going to have to be happy with a 60-40, 55-45, and hopefully split everything else down the middle. But to that even split, unfortunately, it's not going to happen.
No. Unfortunately, and you know what? I'm not crying for him. It's still going to be a huge payday. And good for him. Good for him. There's plenty of money to go around.
Gail's worry is it's not even my worry looking at the other side. My worry is actually like, are they going to still be Team Pacquiao and start talking the crazy shit again? Like, that's what my biggest worry is, because it's like, dog, the team seem easy to deal with. Wilder can be beat. Both men got flaws. Who got more? I would say Deontay Wilder. And it's huge money. Look, I'll tell you, when Eddie Hearn, or when something hit me and said, yo, it didn't look like the other team. But as of now, I agree, man. The split, you got to quit doing the split talk in the media. Even Shelly Finkel came out and was like, Hearn can't use that Wilder start throwing out ridiculous numbers excuse because that only happened a few days after. So I'm like, forget the amount of days. I'm not finna go back and see which day his third press release came out about 50-50. No, but you even admit Wilder came out with ridiculous numbers. That's all I care about. So when you can't do, when that stops, I'll respect what's going on. And I'll look at the other team.
But here's the thing. According to the Mirror in the UK, Wilder is willing to accept a 60-40 split.
Yeah, I saw that change. I saw that. And maybe it's even less than that. I don't know. I don't know exactly what 1.8 compared to, what is it, 20 million? Bro, you might be taking less. You might be getting exactly the split Joseph Parker is getting. We don't know.
Nah, he ain't getting that low.
We don't know.
He ain't getting that low, and they offer him that low. I wouldn't be mad at him for balking because
that's a little bit low. But
how much money are they gonna make? Like, can we get what do y'all think? $100 million fight?
Oh
no. There was an article that just came out, and I did actually read the article. It's from an actual It's not from a boxing artist. It is from Business Insider, who only get into boxing when it involves large amounts of money.
Yeah.
They're calling this a $250 million fight.
Now, are they talking about the betting and so forth too? Gambling?
They're talking money. They're talking gate. Yeah, they're talking the tickets. And that's if the fight's in the UK. There's a chance that the fight could get close to Mayweather-McGregor if it's in Vegas because of the casinos.
Right, but that doesn't yield the same kind of money to Hearn and the other parties involved. It just, you're talking such a massive amount of people where betting is still legal, plus the fan base. Joshua, for all the hype, is still somewhat of an insider's fighter in the United States. He's still had very little exposure, and unfortunately, although Deontay Wilder should be a bigger household name, he's not.
Mm-hmm.
Neither of them are here. They could not fill Barclays Center with Wilder's fight, Wilder and Ortiz. They should have sold that place out. And we have no idea how much of that was papered or not. PBC is notorious for that. So when you've got a guaranteed sellout at the highest possible price tickets you can, and then you've got the gambling marketplace in Great Britain, plus all the travel that would occur among those fans who would go see the fight, there's just no way it's going to be anywhere else. Not a chance.
Let's get Jacob into this discussion because he's been silent. Your thoughts on all this, Jacob?
A lot of I guess things to answer here. I agree with Gail, and I think Daniel, in the sense that there's no way that this is going to be anywhere but the UK. And that's actually not a bad thing. I mean, that's where they're going to make the most money. And Wilder, he's willing to travel. I agree with you, Mike, in the sense that you throw a high number out there, but when you get to the negotiating table, if you say 15 million and they come back and say 10 million and you were willing to take 8, that's a win-win for you.
Exactly. Business 101, boxing negotiation 101.
I agree in that, just all you have to do is talk yourself to get to the negotiation table. What happens behind the doors and the contracts and all that stuff, that's for the management and the fighters to agree upon doing. And, whatever it ends up being, it is what it is. But, you don't want to lowball yourself either, because the potential, Wilder's not stupid. He knows the potential in the UK that fight's going to do monster numbers. And if Parker or Joshua beats Parker and gets that belt, we're talking about an undisputed 4-belt heavyweight championship fight. That is huge.
Something I don't like, when I get it if we're dealing with rookies, but these promoters, they tried and true. Hell, Eddie Hearn way more tried and true than Wilder people if we looking at how it's actually going. I remember a time where Hearn said, if I tell Joshua, hell, Wilder's worried about what he's making. What if I tell Joshua you're facing a harder challenge and all you're getting is $5 extra million? Should he be happy with that? So what if the shoe's on the other foot and Hearn and Joshua come in at the table and say, we go high and keep you low? So what I'm saying is, like I said, these people are tried and true. Don't try these rookie maneuvers. Come in. If you really want the fight, make the fight. But I get what you're saying. Maybe an extra 7 million here or there. But, man, you can do that with common sense. This man knows what you're doing. You're not talking to Boo Boo the Fool or Boo Boo Andre. Fuck it. We use that instead of food. That works fine. But they're gonna get the numbers right, whether you lowball. Man, come sit at the table, make the damn fight. Don't put me through Pacquiao and Mayweather again. I don't got that in my heart no more. To be
fair and bring the other side here, Finkel is no fool either.
No.
And let me finish now. Let me finish. He's the one who put up the evidence that Hearn, after initially speaking to him, writing him a letter, hasn't spoken to him since. He did that.
And remember the name he invoked. He didn't invoke Eddie Hearn. He invoked Barry Hearn.
Right.
The guy that actually makes the decisions at Matchroom.
I don't know if that's true after what I saw from Eddie quotes. I don't know if Barry's gonna let him just talk about him like that. He was like, my dad is old school. They done. It's a new day.
He
You
can let
know,
him talk.
maybe
Well,
they,
He can let him talk about that in public, and then
yeah,
set him straight in private.
yeah. No. That was a quote. That was Boxing
And
City. I'm
like I
just
said
saying.
before, he
I,
can let him talk that mess in public, but in private he'll let him know what time it is.
well, we
yeah,
haven't seen.
but
Maybe his wisdom
but
getting
that's
big.
you're having two old people, you're having two old dogs in the sport trying to battle it out with two guys that
No, Finkel a vet as
unfortunately.
well. he's even
No,
more of a
that's what I mean.
he's even more of a vet than even Barry Hearn because
That's what
That's
Eddie
what I
was saying.
mean.
He said he doesn't think Fickle can get shit done. He going to Al Heyman. That's what he told him.
and wait a minute now, you're the one who signed Al Heyman, so why even mention him into the discussion?
Oh no, I'm just that's what Eddie Hearn said. He said that's where he gets things done. He said I've got done fights done with Al Heyman quicker than I have with old boy. Then Finkel said, but I was with Klitschko. Maybe he was, but Eddie Hearn has been doing way more with Al Heyman, and I can understand. I can understand
Yeah,
that.
he has been
But
doing more.
I
He
don't
has been
trust
doing
Al
more Heyman.
Heyman.
He's been signing Heyman fighters. He's
You're
been
right.
signing
I
Heyman
don't trust.
fighters.
You're
The
right though.
problem,
I don't trust Al Heyman. You're
I was going
100%
to say
right.
you mentioned him, but do you trust him?
I don't trust none of them.
Okay, then. So why
None
throw
of
him?
them. You just gotta talk
no,
about them.
you can't throw in this situation because at the end of the day, like the money's there, and not to mention the fact that Eddie Hearn. I'm gonna say this. I'm gonna mention this many times as I can. Eddie Hearn played himself and tried to embarrass Wilder when he tried to put a video out just to say why is Wilder asking so much money? He's not known. He's not really known in the U.S. And then when he started asking people about Joshua, he got the same answer.
I didn't see that video.
Yeah. Yeah, I forgot. I think he put it up, and then he wanted deleting it once people pointed it out. Like, oh, wait a minute, why are you showing a video where casual people are only still mentioning Floyd, Manny, and Canelo?
Well, that's all the indication. If they come to the States, maybe they do need one fight. And I mean, it is worse that Wilder. Some people didn't know Wilder in this country, and AJ would be in the second country. Hey, if they don't know him, fine. Do a fight. Do a fight. Maybe two. It may take one or two, but I mean, fan wise, of course, I want to see it right now, and they gonna play their little games, and we're gonna have to be happy with what we get in the process.
Bottom line for me is, and I go to you, Gail, to wrap this up. Like I said before, I want this fight to happen. I think it's going to eventually happen at the end of the day. But I'm a little bit skeptical. Eddie Hearn saying he wants this fight to happen next. Let's wrap this up, Gail, before we start this shutdown and talk about what's happening this weekend.
Talk is cheap. End of story.
Simple and plain. Simple and plain. Let's move on to start previewing, I should say, not recapping, but previewing what's happening for the rest of this week, boxing wise, in the ring on the 17th, St. Patrick's Day in NY. We mentioned this earlier in the show. Jose Ramirez and Imam fighting for the vacant WBC title at 140 pounds. On the undercard of that, you got Gvozdyk fighting a guy who I don't know much about. Maybe Amar. I'll lean towards you guys to talk about Amar because I don't know much about him. But let's talk about Ramirez and Imam. I'll go to you, Jacob, on this one. Your thoughts on this fight? We saw Ramirez in his last outing on ESPN in front of his home crowd. Exciting fighter. He blew the guy out. Against an Imam, who I think is still a bit of an unknown since his surprise upset loss last year. We don't know if he's really recovered from that. And for me, it's not just physical; it's mentally. Your thoughts, Jacob?
Yeah, I think Ramirez beat what's his name, Mike Reed, right?
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, Reed.
Yeah.
Who I think he fought this last weekend, didn't I? Think he did.
Yeah, he lost again.
Yeah. So I was impressed with Ramirez, and to your point, Amon, I got to see him fight live, I believe, one time at the StubHub. I believe it was on the undercard of Gail's favorite fighter, what's his name, Chavez Jr. and Fonfera. She probably loved
That's
because
correct.
he got knocked out.
I did.
But he lost that fight to Granados, and he's had a couple wins, but not against the best competition. I got to think that Ramirez is probably gonna handle Amon. I wasn't that impressed with Amon in general. I had heard a lot of things about him, but even that fight that I saw him in, he didn't impress me. Against Granados, he had Granados, all but finished, but he couldn't finish him because Granados is tough as nails. So you know, I'm gonna go with Ramirez in this one, but hopefully it's a decent fight. I don't really want to. I don't feel like seeing a blowout. But maybe this is Ramirez's coming out party in the sense that this is a pretty credible opponent. And he gave yes indeed Mike Reed his first loss, but if he can KO Amon and within the first 6 rounds, then it would send a statement, I think, to the division.
I'll go to you, Low. I'm going to lean toward Ramirez, but for me, as I stated earlier, there's an unknown quality about both of these guys. Put it this way: for me, if either of these guys had to face Prograis right now, I would face Prograis to beat both. I would say Prograis would be both of them. So your thoughts on this fight?
I'm not sure on the Prograis part, but I get where you're coming from. He is fucking exciting and heavy fisted. The Granado stoppage, it don't look as bad as it did then, because this man done wreaked havoc with Broner, Porter. Shit, some people thought he beat Porter, and they saved Porter with some of
He
these
did.
stoppages of the fight, and some people definitely feel he beat Broner. And he even plays in the ring. He toys. Like, if he quits bullshitting, he would probably win the fights. So it don't look as bad, knowing that he just didn't get hit with 1 or 2 punches. He kind of gassed out after Lee in the dominating fight. Got some good technique. He got some good punch selection. Imam, that is. He's smart when he needs to be. Not when he needs to be. He's smart early, and he's exciting early. He's strong early. He's a lot of things. Ramirez is open. Ramirez can be hit, but Ramirez does hit well. I think Mike Reed was overwhelmed, not just like chin broken. I don't know about Ramirez's power being that one punch kind of power where Imam has laid people the hell out. This is a very, very close fight, and I'm almost favoring Imam to rewrite his wrongs, and it's gonna be a pocket fight too. That's where he's good at, but he has to be in shape. He has to be willing to let his hands go. Some people want him to keep his range more, but he fights well on the inside. And like I said, man, shit, Ramirez probably lose a damn fight to Granados too. He just ain't got the wear and tear that Imam got from that. So I'm thinking Imam in this fight, to be honest with you. But the decision, if it goes to decision, Top Rank don't look like they playing fair on the cards after that damn Quigg Valdez fight, but Quigg didn't play fair elsewhere, so can y'all really blame him?
Wait, are you alluding that Quigg won that fight?
No, not saying he won it. I'm just saying, Valdez a few times in a row. I think the last fight was pretty damn wide too when he fought what's his name? Nicholas Walker.
Oh, you mean Gervania?
Mariega.
Genesis?
That card, it may have been that card and Mariaga.
No, you're talking about Mariaga. The fight was close, but those cards were very well.
Here's my thing. My screen basically froze on me for a second. That's why you didn't hear anything from me. You don't have any concerns, Lo, about how Imam would deal when faced with mental pressure. See, here's the thing: when he lost, he was winning, but the guy stood there and he was constantly in his face, throwing punches. My wonder is, if he's in that situation again, how will he deal?
Got to get through him early, because you're right, but I'm looking at early. I got to see what Jose Luis Ramirez is going. I mean, what Ramirez is going to do as well. I just think Imam has that power early. He's precise early, It can hurt you. I don't know if Ramirez. I'm not gonna give Ramirez Granados his heart just yet. I feel like you gotta prove that to me. I'm leaning Imam, but hey, you're right. That is the question. Ramirez got to prove it.
Daniel and Gail, your thoughts?
It's gonna be a fun fight because Ramirez is a tough son of a bitch, but Imam has to show that he's completely recovered from the knockout to Granados, because even in the fights that he's been in since, he hasn't exactly looked as good as he has been recently. So ultimately, we have to see how Ramirez handles the situation, and if he handles the situation, then we're gonna have another logjam at 140 because the WBC belt then will have to be fought among people, and maybe with the way Lomachenko's being positioned, maybe that's the belt he'll get next in a couple of years.
Your thoughts, Gail?
There's so many interesting parallels to be between Imam and Prograis. Because remember, at the time of the fight with Granados, Imam was the hot shit coming up prospect. Exciting, tons of personality, take on all comers, up to that point, had just, strafed through everybody. And we think that fight, and mind you, let's think about this. That was November 2015. That's a long time ago. And he had Granados down in the first round. And we thought, okay, here we go again. This guy is just hotter than July. And boom, it's just this stunning upset, and it did crush Imam's spirit. Absolutely crushed him. And here we are 2.5 almost years later asking, has he recovered? Will you fall that hard like that, especially emotionally? It's one thing to get physically beat, and maybe you learn from it. When learning occurs, it's not always a waste. In fact, in the early part of a guy's career, it can sometimes be the best thing that ever happened. But in this case, it was a fall from grace from a very, very tall building. And I can't help but, in the back of my mind, when I look at Prograis, think, oh, I just hope we do not see another Imam situation. So either he has fully recovered, and he's got to show that he's fully recovered, not just that he wins by a whisker or wins on close cards. He's got to win big. Otherwise, there's just going to be no way to generate a whole lot of enthusiasm for him. I do think Ramirez has a darn good chance of winning. If Imam's head is not in the right place, his skills cannot make up for that. And I don't know how big an emotional blow it was, but it looks like it was almost irreversible. I hate to say that about somebody we were so excited about not so long ago. So it'll be interesting to watch, if nothing else, for that reason.
He's been doing a lot of sparring with Devin Alexander from things I heard about him, and I heard looking good in there, and in the fights he has been picking up, getting him out of there early. So, and we saw Devin Alexander look rejuvenated against Vic. It was a tough fight for him, but he did look rejuvenated. You definitely right. That mental thing can weigh on you. Them whoopings, and it could be just as bad as the physical portion. But I think we can all agree this fight it could be if this man shows up. I like Ramirez, but he can be open as counterpuncher versus this. Ramirez will throw 7 left hooks to the body if you let him consecutively. Like, he will let them damn hands go. This counterpuncher can close up and catch, and man, this shit can get dangerous. That's a good ass fight.
Yeah, no question.
Your thoughts, Daniel?
I'm sorry, I was away from the mic a little bit. What was the question?
I was saying your thoughts on this fight.
On the
Ramirez
Imam?
Yeah.
I think it went before Gail.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. let's move on then. Like I said, I got lost. I got froze. My screen froze on me. I had to wait a couple minutes for it to come back. Uh, Anybody have any comments for this fight between Gvozdyk and Amar? Because, like I said, I hadn't been able to find much information on Amar, so I don't know much about him. So,
I got
Well,
some information for you. You're gonna lose. You're gonna lose bad. That's the
he's
whole
getting to the
information.
point tonight. Yeah, he is the former French light heavyweight champion. Think about how many French champions or French fighters we've seen tearing it up. I'll wait. Yeah, it's a keep busy fight, and it's all created because of Elier Alvarez, right? Because he was allowed he was allowed to step aside with Stevenson so they could make the fight with Body Jack. Okay, so WBC says, okay, great, thank you very much, and we're going to have you fight Gvozdyk. And Elier said no.
Oh.
So he's wiggled out of 2 fights, and so they sanctioned this fight with Amar. And now they've ruled that Alvarez, who's going to be on the undercard of Stevenson Jack, which is crazy to me. If you ditch that fight, why are you on the undercard? He still maintains his status as the mandatory for whoever shows up as champion. And it doesn't make no damn difference to Gvozdyk. He's going to beat either one. He's going to beat Amar more easily and get his hands on a title. They're fighting at the Garden. Egis Klimas is his manager. Klimas does a lot of business at the Garden through main events and through his own promotions. And, these guys have a great following in New York, in the Russian and Eastern European community. So they'll do nice little business, no matter who he's standing across from. It doesn't really matter. And so we'll all expect Gvozdyk to take care of business. And, among all of Klimas's stable, which is, it's gotten to be really impressive. I think we forget about Gvozdyk a lot of the time. We're looking at Usyk, who's flashy, and Lomachenko, of course, and works with Steven, Kovalev. And here you have Gvozdyk, who's kind of the quiet guy of the whole gang up there, who I think, honestly, in many ways, is the most dangerous. So it'll be an easy fight for him, but it's smart. It keeps him busy. It keeps him out there. If you can't really, dance with the right partner, at least you're at the dance. And that is important.
Gail, I think you get the fight right away. I think Alvarez is the next. I think the WBC said the winner of that is Gvozdyk, then Alvarez, and they done right. I told y'all a long time ago. Later, Alvarez is a goddamn idiot. And I don't know anybody who was supporting him. I try to tell people, and he is. He WBC finally stepped up and did the right damn thing. I've been asking him to do it forever, and he showed you his true self once again. And if I'm wrong, the WBC is wrong, because it needs to be whoever stepped up, and Gvozdyk wanted to fight, and he deserves to fight. If the fight is closed by Jack Stevenson, and maybe he steps aside for a rematch, maybe he doesn't. Either way, he deserves to fight the damn winner. And
I agree. And yes, you're right. He is the mandatory. That's that's what I'm saying. He remains the mandatory.
I thought you said Alvarez would remain. Even though he clocked out, but they're keeping him in place too. That's why I'm confused.
Yes, they are keeping him in place as the mandatory. Why in the hell they think he deserves it? I don't get it.
We gotta get that right. I need to, because I'm.
No, they're doing the 2 mandatory thing again. No,
Gvozdyk gets the first. Gvozdyk gets the first shot because Alvarez is. They said we're not gonna move Alvarez. We're just gonna make him wait for the person that complained and say, yo, he's messing with my damn ranking. And I've been telling people to do that, and it's the right thing to do. And he's finna, unless he has a struggle performance, he struggled once with Karpinski. And unless this guy comes out and, this Amir guy, I can't remember his damn name right now. This guy comes out and puts it on him. He gonna he's just gonna kick his ass more than likely. Guy been stopped before. I saw one time, and it should be easy work. But that's the right move by the WBC. They showed me that I was right all along, and I'm grateful for them doing their damn job.
All right, so wait, Gail, are you telling me the WBC is doing the 2 mandatory crap again?
That's what it appears like to me. I certainly could be wrong or have slightly old information, but that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, they told Adonis he was going to be fighting, even if later Alvarez took the fight, they told him you're going to be doing 2 mandatories first, and that's why people was like, well, Badu Jack is never going to get his shot by the WBC rule, but they let him go ahead and get it. So yeah, he has to fight 2 in a row, but with the later Alvarez, that ain't fucking promised. We might not get to see that. Dude is a clown. He can get the hell out of here. That's just how I feel about it.
Well, and, I don't know if this is just hedging their bets so that they can shuffle the cards around depending on who emerges. I don't know. Why in the world the WBC has put up with Stevenson's antics, which really was the first domino in the whole line that's caused all of this now. He's the root cause. And I don't really want to get you started, Lo, but
I won't.
But that's the root of this thing.
It's just you can't do anything. If you offer a later Alvarez a fight and he repeatedly says, I'm not going to turn it down, I'm not going to do, and him and his team come out repeatedly and tell the WBC, no, we're just going to step aside. We're not taking money. We're just not going to fight. And they never do. I'll have to argue that a later Alvarez is the problem. He's the mandatory. He's in position. 2 other mandatories haven't fought the guy. You need to be making sure your belt gets fought for. That's what I'm saying. I'm not here to protect Stevenson. I want to see the best fights. And this clown ass ran from him.
But long before this, Stevenson, as the super champion, has just been turning down fight after fight after fight after fight. We finally get to Alvarez and suddenly it's his problem. No, we wouldn't have even gotten this far down the list if it hadn't been for Stevenson screwing around. And why they didn't order him to fight a mandatory or even negotiate which mandatory it was going to be, at least to save face for him a little bit. I really don't know why they put up with his nonsense as long as they have.
Let's get Jacob into this discussion. Any word on this fight, or are you just like, eh?
No, I don't think the opponent, Amar, is going to pose any trouble for was it Gvozdyk? Gvozdyk.
Please pronounce it right, because the way it comes off, it makes me feel uncomfortable.
Gvozdyk. You can call him Alexander.
Yeah.
Oleksandr Gvozdyk, whatever.
Or that guy.
Anyway, but Amar, I was looking at his record and stuff. I mean, he lost to Mohammed by KO. I don't think that he's going to pose any threat to him. But and I don't want to add any more fuel to the Gale Scorsese Superman fire.
I think we're going to start to shut the show down on that note. I see no low place. He had to bounce, so I'm going to give his information before I go around to the rest of the panel. If you want to check him out on G Plus YouTube, his channel's there. You can check him out there at Low Place #MLPF. If you want to talk the sweet science with him on Twitter, you can check him out at My Low Place. That is at MYLOWPLACE. Want to thank him for joining us on the show tonight. Again, the show started with ladies first. We're going to end the show starting with ladies first. Gail from Community Digital News. For those who want to want to talk the sweet science, talk Game of Thrones, talk Dancing with the Stars, talk environmental issues, let the people know where to hit you up.
You can hit me up, my regular spot on Communities Digital News, which is COMM, Digi, DIGI News, comdiginews.com. Pound for Pound Boxing Report.
Indeed. I want to thank for those who are in the chat. Tony, Quantum, Gus, who made a brief appearance. I believe I saw Sean in here as well. Thank them all for joining us on the show this evening. Daniel from the Inscriber, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk the NBA, specifically the Miami Heat. Let the people know where to hit you up.
Folks, you can find me at on Twitter, Ruckus99. Like I said, we're going to have it both on SoundCloud and for BoxingNews.com. The podcast that we do with the folks at 4BoxingNews.com. Obviously, we had you, Bo, last week with all the Shinsuke Yamanaka, Luis Neri shenanigans. And definitely join us next because I'm pretty sure now, because of other things that are happening, we're going to get a hell of a lot more shenanigans within the next couple of weeks.
Probably so. Probably so. Last but certainly not least, Jacob from Jab Hook, for those who want to talk the sweet science, for those who want to talk movies. Let the people know where they can find you.
Yeah, thanks as always, Mike, for having me on the show. And I can be found at Twitter, JRATM23. You want to talk boxing or movies? That's where I'll be.
Indeed. I want to thank everybody for joining us on the show. If you like what you've heard, because I always don't promote my show enough. If you like what you heard and you're listening live on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Check us out on iTunes. Subscribe to us there. Leave a review. 5-star review will get read on the show. Also, check us out on SoundCloud in particular and Google Play Music. If you want to check me out, if you want to talk boxing, talk music, talk fitness with me, you can check me out on Twitter. Not Brother JR anymore, since I'm all things Black Panther. I'm still in that zone. Brother Wakanda on Twitter at Brother JR76. As I said, as to begin the show, if you want to find out all information regarding Pound for Pound Boxing Report, the blog page is the place to go to. P4pboxingreport.wordpress.com. That's the link. You check the right of the page, you'll find links to the channels and to our channel, links to our channels and pages on G Plus, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr. Also links to where to listen to the show on SoundCloud, on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher Radio, Player FM for the folks in the UK, as well as Mixcloud. On the next episode, we will do a recap of Ramirez and Imam, of Gvozdyk and his battle. Before we end the show, I want to give 2 more fights of notes. Women's boxing on Friday, Senicio Estrada, she's going to be fighting a lady by the name of Osorio. If you get Australia TV, it's going to be on there. Fight's going to happen in LA. Also, I want to make mention of Linus Udofia, a fighter I've had the honor and pleasure to interview with Bo from Truth and Facts About Boxing twice. He's going to be fighting on Saturday, St. Patrick's Day, a rising middleweight to keep your eye on. So look out for him as well. He's going to be fighting in the UK. So Senicio Estrada, women's bout, fighting Osorio, as well as Linus Udofia, also fighting later on this week. Like I said, we're going to do a preview of Ramirez and Imam, of Gvozdyk. I don't know if there's any significant bouts. Dillian White, Lucas Brown, we may talk about that. So yeah, episode 201. I want to thank Scorsese, Low Place, Daniel, Jacob, Gail. I'm your host, Michael. Again, episode 201 of the Pound for Pound Box Report. We will see you guys next time. Everyone have a good evening. Good night.
Good night.